Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, people. Welcome to another episode of Khanage. It could be carnage, it could be calm. We don't know, actually. We don't know. Looking at the faces that are looking at me right now, I sense carnage, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it. People, you're very welcome as you come into the stream. You already know the drill, but I still got to repeat it because, you know, it's one of them things that sometimes the brain forgets as we get older or as we get younger as well. Some people are getting younger, man, looking at some hairstyles right now, but we'll get into that. Smash a like on your way in, people. Kadir's here early, says carnage, 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 hoo. That's what I'm talking about. As long as it's not boo, boo, boo. We ain't getting no boos around here, man. Captain Sal's in the building already. Yeah, we're going to ask this, Brian. We're going to ask all these questions. I don't even know what a consoler is, but, you know what I mean? I don't even know. Do what Monda says, man. Press the like, subscribe on your way in, people. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about contract dilemmas, or are they dilemmas? I've got it out in purple. I'll be told that it has no relevance to the color of the devil. But I'm sure I've seen like devils in purple. No, am I seeing things? I don't know. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. People, let me know. Have you ever seen a purple devil, like horns, purple, like no correlation? Any correlation? Okay, maybe it's just me. Evening, chaps. Nani says evening. Pixelated Pigeon is in the building. He says big up Grizz, Zuberi and Cav. Evening. All evening to you, my friend, as well. We got our first super chat of the night. It says Miyata. It says Liverpool are so biased, giving contracts to Nat Phillips, Gomez, Jones, and letting Bobby and Mane contract run down. Hold that thought, people. Hold that thought. A controversial, a very hard hitting super chat to start off the chat with. This is what we're here for today. People, as I said, strap yourselves in. I don't even know the opinions of these guys I've got on today. So it'll be interesting. Of course, I've got the man Zuberi and the man Cav with me. Zuberi first and foremost, because you was in first, so you get to the top. Normally Cav's in with me, but you got in first today, so you're at the top. And you're here. So what are you saying?
Hey, I had to get in early. Had to get in early. I'm seeing the same sentiment just floating around. All smiles, happy days. And I'm like, nah, it's time to bring the match out. Somebody got to set this thing on fire. So I was in early, an hour early, man. I was in just waiting, writing down notes, doing research, making sure what I'm coming with isn't just gibberish as usual. You know, I come with the pressure. We're going to make some diamonds today. We're going to make some diamonds today.
Okay. People obviously look naturally intrigued, right? Because not every day they put on a stream and there's like tarantulas like on screen, but on people's headpieces. So it's natural. Don't be offended. Don't be surprised. So certain people are going to want to know, like, what's this hairstyle called back in the US?
So this is the tester to a South Florida hairstyle called Wicks. So it's when you have so it's when you have the dreads and you kind of like combine them and you make like one really thick dreadlock.
Okay.
So I want to say I have probably around 80 to 90 something individual dreads. And as you can see, it's combined to like 6. Also, it's dope with all my tarantulas. Oh, yeah, it's serious business.
Oh, they look serious.
You can't just be no random Joe Blow rocking this, bro. You gotta be a serious guy.
No. You have to be serious. You can't be, you can't be average. That's not Mr. Average walking around the streets of the US, man. Not California. Where are you?
I'm in New York.
New York.
So I'm bringing South Florida hairstyle to New York. That's big business.
You can't be walking around New York like that, man. No. Unless you're serious. That's what people need. People need to know Zuberi is serious to be walking around like that. Either that, you know what I mean, or you're doing some satellite promotion thing. I don't know.
No, man. It's the contract dilemma. It's serious business as well.
Serious business.
So it's a serious stream, serious business, serious
100%. So what? I walk into a barber's in New York and I ask for
Wicks.
But
Grizz, I'm gonna be honest, man. You can't be having the no hair on the top.
What? It'll run for me?
Grizz,
Well,
you
I
just
can't run
you
it.
gotta get a full piece.
I
Grizz,
can't
they
run it,
might do the glue thing for you know when they glue on other people's hair.
bro. Where there's a will, there's a way. If I got the
Go
will
for
and
the
the
winner.
heart for it, if I got the will and the heart for it, I'm gonna make it happen. You don't worry about that. You just tell
So
me what it's
say
called. I'm gonna go into a barber's and I'm gonna ask for a Wix.
Wait, that barber knows he's making no money if people like Grizz are walking into his shop every day.
Well, have you guys seen that advert? Fabinho went into the barbers today, like he's got fresh trim as well. What's he doing? Like that's
Hey.
easy work for that barber. He's probably charged
Nah.
him 30-40 quid. What's he done?
Now you guys are not paying homage to barbers. So just so you guys know, I'm not sure if it's in the UK. So in New York, barbers make like $750 to $1,000 per head because men are now getting the wigs and doing braids and doing wicks. So men aren't just getting regular haircuts and shave anymore. So just so you know, barber profession is when like 2022.
No.
Instagram
I already
life.
know. I already know.
So you can get some wicks. It's probably gonna cost you about $1,000 to glue that on your head and then style it.
Okay, I'm a pass.
But it's serious business.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. When I get serious like you, then I'll think about serious haircuts. Right now, I've got a war hat on, and I've got Cav with me as well. Cav, I hope you bring some calmness and logic to what could be not a debate as such, but a chat between brothers, friends, you know what I mean, LFC family. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope your week's been well.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I come in late, I come in calm, I was chill. And then I seen Zabiri on stream and he said, yeah, I'm bringing fire. I was like, okay, I might need to just wake myself up a little bit. It's going to be one of them ones, is it?
Yeah,
so.
he's been writing down notes since I told him. You know what I mean? I'm telling you. And then, you know, his hair was down before I told him the title and what we're talking about. You understand? It just stood up. But I guess it's good to chat about these things because anything that sort of what's the word? Seems to be divisive amongst the fan base. It came a bit out of the blue. I guess that is all about timing. It came out of like nobody really saw it coming or nobody really expected it because he's still got a couple of years, I believe. He had his contract was 2025. I'll come to you, Cav, first. Curtis Jones, while I bring it up, I guess. Let's bring it up. So Curtis Jones, what do we know? We know Curtis Jones has been extended, I guess, right? So it means extended, isn't it? It's not given a new contract, it's extended a contract. So who becomes the latest player to commit his future to the club? Let's delete this. Over the past 8 months, there's been a clear effort to tie down the core of Jurgen Klopp's squad to improve and extend deals. So this is an improvement and extension. They go on about sort of that the other players that have already extended. I guess the standout in that is probably James Milner, which we can discuss. In terms of, we didn't see that coming in terms of age. The rest we kind of knew. It's the spine of the team. Klopp and his backroom staff have also signed with the club until 2026. Manager is stressing the recent his commitment regardless of the Fenway Sports Group's plans. Now Liverpool have announced a fresh contract for Jones, who has finalised an extension to the deal he signed back in 2020. He's now tied to the club until 2027. Having joined the Reds as a 9-year-old, people, 9-year-old, you know, he's enjoyed his rise through the ranks, and then they go on about sort of, you know, what they hope. You know, hope will be that over this new contract, Jones will continue to develop and be able to challenge for a starting spot, which could see him challenge any new additions in the upcoming transfer windows. So yeah, look, that's the situation. That's what we're at. Did it come to a bit of a surprise for you, Gav?
Yeah, it was a bit actually, because he still had time left on his deal. And there was no kind of murmurings about him leaving or any other club being interested in him. He's obviously been out through injuries and God knows what this season. And he's played a little bit of late. And yeah, it just seemed a bit unusual. You know, you can talk about like the possible takeover or investment into the club and the uncertainty that might bring around the squad, people going in and going out. And with time on his deal, I didn't think it was like that urgent. So when it happened, it was a bit like, oh, okay. And look, for me personally, I was like, I'm not over the moon. It's, let's face it, it's Curtis Jones. He's not one of our bigger players, so to speak. But I was, pleased enough. And the timing was a bit strange, but maybe it was just really pre-planned. You know, you've just listed off some names there. Maybe the club has just looked at the deals and the contracts that are currently in motion and just trying to time them and stagger them across the next few years. And Curtis probably is one. I don't know how much he's actually on, to be honest, but he's not one of the higher paid players. Maybe they just looked at it and thought, you know what, it's the World Cup. We've not got much else to deal with. Let's focus on contracts maybe and sort out the easy stuff that we can. And so that's maybe why they've chosen now to do it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Look, again, with these kind of things, we don't know the reason for timing. We don't know how long, I guess, negotiations have taken place. But I mean, Zuberi, when you obviously woke up, I guess, in your part of the world, when you found out what's going on, you suddenly see this. I've got it here, actually. Curtis Jones. Your initial thoughts. So, you know, he's got 2 years left, but we've decided to extend that as well. Just secure him up. I guess we'll get into the pros and cons, but what was your initial reaction? I like hearing your initial reaction.
So my initial reaction was, I literally saw it as I woke up. So you're not wrong there.
Oh God.
And I'm just like, you know what, let me just set the phone down. They always say, don't pick the phone up as soon as you wake up. So maybe I didn't see what I saw. So I left the phone, went on about my business, came back, and I'm like, why? First question, why? Reminded me of another player towards the end of last season. And I'm like, this isn't a good look. It's not a good look. It's not needed. Makes no sense. And then I started processing it more and other things started coming to mind. But initial reaction was just why, and it makes no sense. So,
well, go on then. Let's give us an insight into why, in your opinion, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's the same reason another player contract extension didn't make sense towards the end of last season, which is Milner. Curtis Jones getting this new deal right before the window just reminds me of Milner getting his new deal before the window. So what does that say about the new midfielder coming in? That's where it puts a big question mark. Because I knew it wasn't getting anybody because Milner signed and Carvalho signed right before the summer window. It's hard to sign up players before a transfer window and then bring a new player into that position. It's just a big question mark on the whole process of what they're doing there. So you're going to tell this guy, yeah, you're going to be here to 2025. And then literally a month later, you go, yeah, now I'm getting this sparkling new midfielder. It's just, I have to ask why.
Okay, you've asked the question why. So I think we both may have a few things to say on this, because the comparison that you've given, Zuberi, that doesn't make sense to me. So how the Curtis Jones contract extension doesn't make sense to you, your comparison to the Milner situation doesn't make sense to me. And I'll elaborate on it, but I'll give first dibs to Cav.
Yeah, do you know this? And look, when people I've seen online that haven't been happy with the contract, what they've tended to do is look at the knock-on impact as opposed to focusing on Curtis. So they're looking at he's taking up a place in the squad. We need other midfielders. There's the money that goes into paying him each week that should be used on somebody else coming in. And then there's, you know, people that look at the player and just think he's simply not good enough. But the truth of the matter is the lad's 21. You know, he's so young still, and he's been at Liverpool for all his
since 9 years old.
Yeah, he's been there for his entire football career. He understands the club. He's obviously a local lad. He understands the city. He's a fan of the club. You know, he's come through the ranks. He did very well in the under-21 and lesser age groups. And he feels like a player that's been around for so long, yet he is still only 21. And I think the thing is, when giving him this new contract and extending it to 2027, is we're securing him for what's possibly going to be his best years, because I don't believe, seen him yet. So what we need to do is focus on the player and what he's going to give this squad moving forward and what part he's going to play, and not worry so much about the place he's taking up. Because when we come to the summer, there's going to be midfielders leaving. There's going to be plenty of space for new people coming in, regardless of whether one of those was Curtis or not. So I was happy with the deal. A young man, a local man, a supporter of the club, and somebody that seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, works quite hard, and he has the attributes to be a really good player. I'm not going to go overboard, but a really good player.
So I'm going to let you come back, Zoops. 1 second. So let's break it down into sort of parts and sections, okay? So first and foremost, I think the comparison to James Milner contract is unfair. So this guy has come through the ranks. He's not established himself. I think we all agree, us three, and probably the chat will agree 100%. He's not established himself as a first team regular. He's on the peripheral of being what is known as a squad player. Would we agree at this stage? Okay, so he's what is known as a squad player. The pros and the cons we go into now. He's a young squad player, as opposed to the Milners and the Hendersons, who are elderly squad players. So there's the extreme of the very elders and the very young ones. He's 21. I believe he has a lot to prove to become a first team regular, but I also believe he's got enough time to prove himself. I believe he's got the attributes to cement his place as a squad player at the least. I'm not going to argue, I think Cav said as well, I'm not going to argue his case to be he has the attributes to make it to the top. So let me just tell you this, Zoobs, before you go. The guy, his contract that he was on currently, he was on $8,000 a week. Let me break that down to you. $8,000 a week. His contract is not much better, new one, and he's happily accepted it. I'm assuming it's in the region of $25,000 a week now. For a young man, for the talent that I believe he has and the attributes he has, the homegrown quota makes a whole heap of sense in my eyes, because we have to look after that because of the other players that we're going to talk about and know. For me, tying down a young player who understands the whole club, the culture, been with the coach all these times. Well, not all these times. He's been at the club since 9, but every coach has kept him. Every coach has retained him since 9 years old. They've not seen nothing in him. They've seen something in him. They've decided to keep him. He's got something. We're going to extract something out of him. He's got something. He's not fulfilling it, all his potential, but he's got something. By the time he's now 21, I think Jurgen Klopp and Pep Linders and Liverpool have decided that for the amount of money we're going to invest in him, because that might be brought up, the squad place, the homegrown quota, everything suggests we tie him down. And if you don't prove nothing in my opinion, 12 to 18 months max, then we sell him on and we get him a good fee. For me, it's a no-brainer. Zuberi, the floor is yours.
All right, so I'm going to touch on what you said there in a minute, but I just want to point out something that Cav did not say.
Okay.
Cav didn't mention nothing about football or his contribution on the pitch. I just want to point that out. Mm-hmm. So we gave him a new deal, and his contribution on the pitch or football had nothing to do with it. I thought that was ludicrous. If what you're saying, Grizz, about the $8,000 per week thing, and we're trying to get him some more money, okay, sure. Let's get the young lad some more money in his pocket. If that's what this whole deal was about, okay, then I understand why. When people come out and describe him as a genius mentality guy and all this stuff. I don't see it. Jurgen Klopp is his biggest fan. So to me, right then and there, that just points to another favoritism thing that isn't necessarily going to fly for me. Yeah, that's not going to fly for me. Of all the players needing a new contract, this one could have waited till the end, not the beginning. So this happening in the beginning is just like not right, not the right move for the right time. So that's how I feel about it. As far as comparing it to the Milner, that deal we didn't need Milner. And the fact that we actually go through the season needing him says a lot other stuff about the knock-on effects. And when I see James Spears publishing an article February 17 of 2021 saying he's no longer Liverpool's future, he's their present, it's almost 2 years ago. So you're saying a year to 18 months. I'm saying to the end of the season. With this new deal, I need to see something. You keep saying that every manager has seen something. I've yet to see that. I call him anti-football, not more than a week ago. Anti-football, got a new football deal. Can't rate it.
Cav?
Yeah, but that's fair, Zabiri. But I mean, at the age of 21, and on that contract, them terms, which are very, very low for a Premier League footballer, let's be honest, there's not really much risk. Like, the guy isn't, even if he doesn't play as much as he would like, he's not going to kick up a fuss. So as a squad player at 21, he's going to be happy. He's not going to cause any issues around the camp. And then you drop him into the games where you think he's available and capable to do so. And then if he impresses, great. You've then got a player that his value is increased. But he has the potential to play in a Liverpool midfield. And I know a lot of people think he's not Liverpool quality. I've seen that comment a few times in the chat. People refer to the starting 11. You know, not every single player can be world class.
Let me just name a few examples that have just come up in my head right now of players that were crucial to Premier League winning teams, but weren't deemed good enough to be regulars in the team. And there's probably loads, right? But just, you know, when you're just talking and thinking at the same time, like we're doing, like we didn't even know each other's opinions. People in the chat need to know this isn't pre-planned. We didn't say this, we didn't say that. This is just pure giving each other's opinions raw as we're hearing it. And people in the chat, I'm reading the chat, and there's so many different opinions, which is fine. So for example, let me just say, there's one guy, look, Curtis Jones won't be at Liverpool in 2 years. No problem. I can see that being true. But what I can see happening, if that's the case, is a nice £25 million, in my humble opinion, minimum in our coffers. 100%. And that equates to the current deal that we've given him, great business, if we've given him 20 grand a week for being, from what I think is a solid squad member. Now, in terms of he hasn't shown you nothing, then it becomes subjective, doesn't it, Zuberi? Then it's he hasn't shown you nothing. A couple of people in the chat, he's shown me something. He's shown Jurgen Klopp and Pep Linders something. He's shown every other coach that's coached him something, right? Then it becomes totally subjective. I feel as though he's England under 21 international as well. So his national team recognized, the national coaches recognize that he's got talent. I think he's got talent. If we start digging into his role in the squad and his positional role as well, and his qualities, then we can break it down further. So I think Jurgen Klopp hasn't found, or the coaches haven't found, the perfect role for him. I don't think he's been used correctly. Do you see him being used correctly and then becoming useful? So I'm going to hit you some names that top of my head, and people in the chat help me, and Cav help me as well, and even Zuberi help me if you guys can think at the top of your heads. Straight away, I look at the most dominant teams of the recent times of the Fergie era: Nicky Butt, Darren Fletcher, Anderson, that Brazilian, Kleberson. All these guys were part of great teams, but were never deemed good enough to be regulars. If you isolate their talents if you isolate their capabilities on an individual basis, we'd say, what do they bring to the table? What does John O'Shea bring to the table? What does Nicky Butt actually bring to the table? But they was deemed integral parts of the whole fabric. Integral parts of the whole fabric. Nicky Butt, very similar to Curtis Jones, has been there from the time dot. Like he was the young kid, came through the academy, was never the glamorous, was just assumed he's local, so he's in the team. Who gives a fuck if he's local or he's Iranian or he's American? The fact of the matter is, he can become integral. He can. People need to listen to what I'm saying before they put words in my mouth. He can become integral. I'm not saying he's integral. I'm not saying he needs to be integral, but he can become integral. And I think at 21, with the wages that we've given him and we've secured the contract around him, he's been given the chance to solidify his squad place. Whether he does or he doesn't will be down to him. I accept he hasn't shown me enough to warrant a starting place to be called integral. But I'm just going to very quickly say, in the COVID season that we lost all our defenders and some of our midfielders had to play at the back, a young 19-year-old Curtis Jones, for me, played a crucial part in making sure we get top four. And I think Jurgen Klopp and coaches have seen that season and remembered it. Since then, he's been very unlucky with irritating injuries. He's not injury prone. He's had awkward injuries that out of the blue. I just think it's a no-brainer for me. I've just given you Thiago comes to mind. Do you remember the Chelsea Portuguese Thiago? Never integral. They had another guy, Ukrainian man. But all these teams have this. Drinkwater for Leicester City. They had a couple of guys that come and do a job certain times of the season and keep it moving. I feel as though Curtis Jones has the capability of that. At 20 grand a week, it's a non-brainer, homegrown quota. I think we're too much looking, and I think it's fair that we're not going to replace the outgoing players with better first team members. And I think that is skewing our thoughts with regards to Curtis Jones.
Wow. That was a lot there, man. That was a lot there. Disagree.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I disagree because you're saying he haven't shown you enough, and I'm saying he haven't shown me nothing. So I'm not sure what is enough for you, but I know what's nothing for me. And if you're telling me he haven't shown you enough, I think you're like halfway between nothing, or at least close to nothing then, because it's either he's showing you something or not. I think signing him up like this, it could have benefits if we plan on like selling him or giving him a chance to go on a loan, maybe a year or two, whatever. Then I can see the benefits in that. But as far as what we need now and within the next 18 months, I would say it's not Jones. I understand the guy is local. I understand all these stuff. He's been around the club since he was like, 9? Great. Jurgen Klopp's been here almost 7 years. So what kind of development are we going to expect? Are we going to say he hasn't been able to develop because Jurgen Klopp didn't have money? Because I fail to see how this is a positive thing moving forward. I fail to see it. I think this is actually a conflict of interest. A lot of fans has been screaming out for investment in the squad. Let me tell you what investment we were not talking about. This type of investment, because this is also an investment in the squad. And not one of you guys can tell me that this is the type of investment in the squad you're referenced when you say these men need to invest in the squad. I'd rather a move like this happen with your likes of Genie, not with Jones. There's other players that we could have do business like this with. I don't think it's Jones. So like I said, when we're talking about investment in the squad, look, I should be on the opposite end of this fence. But here I am backing up the investment argument. Are we talking investment in new players, or are we talking investment in what we currently have in the future? Because we're always talking about the future, but we need things now. We need things now, and Jones is not them things.
The thing is, though, Zubiri, like you say, we need things now, and you're dead right. I mean, look at the season we've just had, we're not even halfway through, where the squad has been really tested and torn apart, especially in that midfield area. We're going to go into a summer whereby we're losing 3 midfielders, and need to replace all of them. I know Curtis won't leave this summer, but you want to just cement the players that you have got and nail them down, and then lose the likes of Nabi, Ox, and maybe Milner, and concentrating on bringing replacements for them in, you know. So Curtis at the age of 21, and this is why I go back to it, he's not going to cause a fuss in the squad. He'll play whatever minutes Klopp gives him, and I think he'll be perfectly fine with that. I don't see what the issue is with him being in and around the squad as maybe a third, fourth choice option. You know, if I wouldn't put him in Liverpool's best 11, I don't think most people would. But when you're playing like a Southampton 3:00 on a Saturday and you've got a Champions League game in the week, you might just need to drop him in there, you know. And a Liverpool squad should have 11 players that are good enough to go out and win. And if one of them is Curtis Jones, it shouldn't matter. And that's what I see him at this current time. His role is in this Liverpool side. You play him in cup games, and at the age of 21, he's actually going to be one of the mature players you see, because he's obviously older than some of the stars we've got, Elliott, Carvalho, Morton, Bacecic. He's got a few years of experience on them, so he can help out in that respect. And then, you know, you drop him into the odd league game, even Champions League. I mean, he held his own in that Napoli game perfectly fine. That's Napoli, big bad Napoli this season. And we had a good Liverpool side, you know, and we needed somebody on the left wing. We just dropped him in there. He did absolutely fine. Was he stellar? No, I'm not saying he's stellar. I'm not saying he's generational. I'm not saying he's going to be unbelievable. Okay. I'm just saying you have 25 men in a squad and not every single one of them can be amazing generational world-class talents. For a guy at 21 to be on 25 grand a week, happy to be in around the squad and play whatever minutes he's given, they're valuable assets to the squad. You know, we've lost out on Champions League and league titles because we've had a rinse squad, a drained squad come the end of the season. I'd have loved to have had a few more people like Curtis Jones that could just drop in and take minutes off people for the longevity of a season. So I totally get what you're saying. We do need to replenish the squad. Why should he have a place? Well, I think there's a place for somebody in that age bracket that can come in and be a decent squad player.
I agree that we need to replenish the midfield. Let's just focus on the midfield for today's show purposes, right? And we all know the issues. I'm just going to read out our super chat before we go on. So sorry, guys. Pixelated Pigeon says, if we had signed elite midfielders to replace aging ones last summer, how different would this debate be? Jury is out on Jones, but it seems unfair. I think this pretty much nails it, okay? I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zuberi, I don't want to put words in your mouth and thoughts in your head. I think it's a fear that we're not going to replace or we're not going to add the quality that is needed for the first team. Yeah. I think that's what the fear is. And I think that is so unfair to take out on Jones. Like, that's not a fault of Jones. Now, if we don't replenish the midfield in replacing the named Ox, Nabi, and Milner, and if this deal that we've done with a young 21-year-old is an indication of what we're going to rely on next season going forward, then I agree with the idea and notion this is mad and this is mental. But I think we have to look at it in isolation, that this is a deal for a young guy that's going to be, let's just guess he's going to be a new Milner, Stroke Henderson, who's going to come in certain games, do jobs, go out, like he has done. And I think he's done it ably. You know, you're saying, what has he done? I can remember games where he's come in. Southampton away last season. I can remember he's been injured a lot as well. Europe, I remember Ajax, he scored the winning goal for us in Ajax. I remember I was at that game. Sorry, I wasn't at that game. That was the behind closed doors one. I would have been cheeky if I was behind that game. But he has come in. He has come in and done jobs for us. And at that age, I don't think you can ask much more unless you're a great player, which we've all agreed he's not. Man of the match Porto, people are talking about. Lead 6-0, people are talking about. So I think it's two different points people are worried about or making here. I think. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, no, you know, Grizz, what I'm hearing from you, you know, I don't want you to, maybe you didn't say it right, but what you're saying is you're making it seem like we're making this about Jones, the player. Jones didn't sign himself a new deal, you know, so it's not, let's take Jones out of it. We're talking about him, but not necessarily at him. You know,
Okay, so maybe we're saying this then. Do we agree with Captain Sal? No one is blaming Jones. It's the club that's made a bad decision again.
So shout out to Captain Sal on that point. So yeah, it's just the way the club is going about it, because Jones isn't going to bring new talent.
Okay, so break it down to me. Break it down to me how you see this. We're going to add blue chip to the building as well, because this is about to get even more heated, I think. So you explain to me how you, and a lot of people in the chat, I'm going to keep bringing up the people. Guys, give me a couple of minutes. I'm going to try to keep up with the chat. How is this seen from your eyes a bad decision from the club?
Because the club signed up Milner and Carvalho, and this is why you couldn't see the connection to Milner. We're basically saying we're going again with this guy in midfield, when all the fans across the world and even other supporters of other teams would say you guys needed new men in midfield, but retain Milner. Retaining Jones isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just not a good strategic move for the club, because Milner is still here, so he has another 6 months to go before his deal is up. Is Jones currently better than Milner? Is Jones offering the team more than Milner in this moment? Jones started one game and made 3 appearances off the bench and only had 1 shot. What has Jones offered this season? We're going to say he's injured, coming back, getting the groove of things. There's too many excuses when all we need in the team is performance. A lot of clubs run on high standards as far as performance. If you're not performing, you can't get in there. Milner is literally like the 4th choice from the starting 3, whoever that starting 3 is. And it's only certain games I can see Jones getting in there. Jones isn't someone we can rely upon to carry us through this season. He's like a stopgap. So securing up a stopgap was that important? I think what was important was to look for the right candidate, whether it's in January or to come in and make the difference that we need for this season. It's not like his contract was going to run out. We could have signed him up at the end of the summer. So I think the timing of this contract, it just makes me look at the club and go, what is the club trying to do here? Because once they signed Milner and Carvalho, I knew there wasn't going to get a midfielder. Whether that's down to the owner or the manager, I knew it just doesn't make sense getting a midfielder when you've secured 2 before the summer window. Now they said, we sign up a new guy, renewed contracts are like new signing. So we basically have 1 new signing for January window. How are we going to go into this window now? So from the club point of view, I can't see how this is very good and strategic.
Avi, hope you've been got the gist of it. I know you've only joined us just now. So we're trying to give an opinion a base to start off with. And we're trying to bring up sort of chats that are pro and for it. Obviously, we're talking about the Curtis Jones one at now. Cavs made a case for it making total sense. Zuberi doesn't see it as making much sense. He's not blaming Jones per se. He's saying you heard what he said. So how do you see this Curtis Jones extension? Does it make sense for the player, from a player point of view, and a strategic point of view from the club?
First of all, Don Daddy's back. Okay. Blue Chip's back. Okay. So let's calm ourselves a little bit. Cav, pleased to meet you, man. I think it's the first time that you've been on.
Very listen, man.
I thought Grizz had got John Allen Maximan on the show with that hairstyle. Man. Honestly, I really thought it was John Allen Maximan, but welcome. But very honestly, respectfully, let's behave ourselves a little bit with Curtis Jones. Listen, Curtis Jones is 21 years old. Okay. If we're comparing like him to like midfielders like who are doing it right now, it's so unfair because he's still developing. And I don't know what it is with Liverpool fans and even fans in general, or it's just modern football fans. We want quick. We have too many expectations, way too many expectations. Harvey Elliott, I've been a big advocate of Harvey Elliott this season. I've been on his case a lot, but I have seen improvements in recent weeks too. I want him to succeed, just like I want Curtis Jones more than anyone to succeed. But at the end of the day, like they're still learning. Would I have Curtis Jones in front of Nabi? Yes, I would. Would I have him in front of Oxlade-Chamberlain? Yes, I would. James Milner? Yes, I would. Right? He's still a developing midfielder. You got to remember, he started off as a 10. He never had the work ethic of like a Genie or a Henderson or a Fabinho. He's had to learn that midfield role. He's had to learn to be structured in a Klopp system, and that takes time. That may take another year. So, I totally understand why he's got the contract, because there is potential there. The minerals are there already. He just needs to refine it. In a nutshell, Grizz. In a nutshell.
I'm going to read a couple of super chats that some are pro and some are against, guys. So it is what it is. We have to listen to it. Yeah. So LFCR 786 says, Grizz, for me, it's more to do with how good other youngsters are compared to him. He can't lace Jacob Ramsey's boots, but he's at Villa and Jones is here. That's the issue. We just need better players. He sent us another one. Even that, I think that's what Avi said when we're comparing him to others. That's unfair on him. So LFCR 786 says, and I think Cav and Avi will have to answer this because Zuberi won't know this. He says, name me one outstanding attribute Jones has. All young players need one. For example, Harvey's got the passing and the vision. There's way better out there for F's sake. And then Miata says, can you name 3 midfielders we need to sign? Mine is Conrad Lima, Jude Bellingham, and Neves from Wolves. We'll hold that thought as well. So, guys, look, I think the gist of it is people are worried. Zuberi, you can come in if you want to add to that. Avi's had his say, Kav's had to say. What is it that you see in him, Kav, for example, then, that makes you think every other coach has seen in him since he was at 9, and every national coach has seen him as well? What is it that these guys have seen in him, but a lot of the fan base, Liverpool fan base, hasn't seen in him? Where's the mix up? Where's he getting mixed up and the wires getting mixed up? Because it seems, I don't want to call out people, but it seems all the professionals and the people that are in the coaching industry like him and see him. People that haven't really, unless you throw some qualifications at me, don't see nothing in him. I'm sorry, it's time for some hard truths.
Well, as Avi touched upon, he was a number 10 in the underage groups, and he was a good goal scorer as well. Go back and look at the statistics.
Just a quick shout out. Avi's the one who told me about him. Avi and another guy called... I'm so sorry. If I remember his name, I'm so sorry, my friend. If I remember your name, I'll call you out as well.
You remembered mine, that's good enough.
They told me about Curtis Jones many moons ago, and they said this guy's got talent. And he did have talent. And I refuse to accept that he hasn't shown that talent at a younger level. The development, we can argue and debate.
Yeah, so he was good in that sense in the underage groups. But at Premier League level, he's yet to prove he's a good goal scorer or a good at getting assists and contributing to the game in that way. But what the attributes that really stand out for me, and this is where I see him as more of a midfielder than a left forward or what have you, is he's quite tall, he's quite strong, but especially on the ball. He's very, very press resistant, and he can hold the ball well. And a lot of people turn their nose up at that and go, well, that's not really a great attribute to label at somebody. But Gini Wijnaldum made a Liverpool career out of doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's not until it's gone that you realize how important it is, because I always talk about keeping the ball and protecting the ball and getting your first touch right and moving it on. If you just have players that can't hold on to the ball and pass it frantically, you can't build anything. You can't have patterns of play. You can't dictate tempo. So sometimes you need somebody just to get on it, hold it, and give it to the guys that are actually better than them. Do you know what I mean? Get the ball, always be confident and be willing to receive it, which he is, in any area of the pitch. Get it, control it, even when someone's on your back, keep hold of it, turn back, and give it to the next midfielder or give it to the forwards to let them go and do something. He's not got a standout attribute. He's not an exceptional passer of the ball. He's not the best in defense and tackling. He doesn't really get goals or assists. No, but he kind of does everything well. And then his standout thing for me is his press resistance, which in a Liverpool midfield next to a genius in Thiago, and at the minute Fabinho or Elliott, that's a bit more, as someone's alluded to, better at passing, got better vision, doesn't need to have them things. He needs to be good enough, but he just needs to come in and not look out of place, and he never does for me.
Avi, before we let Zuberi come back in, before you came on, we were talking about sort of great teams. Every basically great squad that have won stuff have had and we gave examples of Nicky Butt. We gave examples of the Portuguese Thiago under Jose. You're on mute. Ray Parlour.
Ray Parlour, Ray Parlour to some extent.
Every squad had players that were deemed. What do they really give? yet they were retained by those great coaches, Arsene Wenger for Ray Parlour, Jose Mourinho for Thiago, and Alex Ferguson for the likes of John O'Shea, for Anderson, Kleberson. These guys, they don't have to be outstanding options. Zuberi, I'm going to come back to you and say, do you see any attribute in him that you think others may have seen?
There's one attribute I'll always give him, because once you do this, it's almost like a elite brown nosing in football. If you want to get picked, you want to show for the ball. A lot of players hide in the pitch. You know, they lay it off and they run and hide. This guy shows 110% of the time. He's always showing for the ball. Here's the downfall with that attribute. If you're always showing for the ball, you're not doing nothing progressive. You can be criticized as a sideway guy, and that's what Genie got dragged for. Let's not pretend like we were all waving Genie's flag. Most people are saying, he doesn't do much. No assists, no goals. Curtis is actually following in that mold, but it's a good attribute to have in a Klopp system. You need a guy to do that. Should we take Curtis and make him into that guy? No. So that's why I don't understand this move. If you're saying the man is a 10, we've went out and got 2 other 10, and we already have multiple 10s in the team. So basically, to me, Curtis is what we will deem in the military as overstrength in that position. You're surplus to requirement. We have too much 10s. And out of all of the 10s we have, he's not even at the top of the list.
Grizz, 1 minute, please. We've got to also bear in mind, we've got this homegrown rule, right? We've got to address it in the summer. Because we're assuming that Milner, Ox, and maybe Joe Gomez, maybe there might be an offer for Joe Gomez next summer, right, to go. That's 3 players already that we've got to kind of replace with British players. Yes, we've been linked with the Mason Mounts, the Declan Rice, obviously the Jude Bellinghams, but we've got to address that issue. Curtis Jones at 21, you can't write him off. You can't write him off at all. Jordan Henderson, when he first came, right, his first season, Brendan Rodgers was right, but he was ready to get rid of him. There was already a deal in place for him to go and Clint Dempsey to come the other way, right? Sometimes we've got to show patience. It's not Jamie Carragher at 21 was making mistakes galore. You know, you've got to let these players mature and let them develop. If by 22, 20, if by 23, 24, he's been here for 2 years and it's like the same old, I'll put my hands up and say, yeah, you know what? Let's get a reasonable fee for 15, 20 million and sell him. But at the moment, he deserves his place. He deserves his place in the squad.
I hear what you're saying, but I think you're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm not saying I've given up on it and I'm writing the guy off. The guy is what he is. We have like 6 10s in the team, and you're telling me he came in as a 10. And
no, he's not coming as a 10 because Klopp's tried to alter his game and make him into a industrious midfielder in a midfield 3.
That's
he's not
what
coming
I'm
as a
saying.
10. We've never seen Jones in a 10 under Klopp.
That's what I'm saying. So this guy is what he was, and Klopp is trying to remold him. And for the past
same with Genie, though,
years,
when Genie came, he wasn't a midfielder. He was coming in the winger. Really, winger was a 10 from Newcastle in PSV days. So he came.
But Genie showed progression in that remold.
Yeah, but he also came in 25. Curtis Jones he's come in since like 17, 18. He's 21 years old. He hasn't got the years that Genie had when he came from Newcastle.
Let me ask you this question.
Come on.
So are you telling me Curtis is that good that you think we should allow him 24 for a remold? Because you're not even making an argument for him to play in his position. You're making an argument to be patient with him in a remold.
Yeah, but Mom,
that is my issue.
Why are we remolding? If you look at Klopp's team, there's a few players who've been remolded. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he was off as a right back, the number 6 in the youth team. He came as they molded him into a right back. Right?
Your Wi-Fi is bugging. Is it only me or is everyone's Wi-Fi bugging?
It is a bit, yeah.
Lagging a little bit, yeah. Let me read out super chats. A couple of super chats that we're going to get into. LFC Aaron says, "Big up, gentlemen. 4 people I love listening to. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you very much." Kadir says, "Jones hardly loses the ball. Good in tight spaces. Good at running with the ball, and he puts in a shift wherever you want him. Sorry for caps. I'm angry, but you're laughing emoji. I like that. Even though you're angry, you laughed it off, which is always good." Klopp picks Hendo and Milner over him when he's fit. LFCR 786 says. Gini was athletic. Curtis isn't. Messi says. And Messi also says he's the least player I would play in midfield. I think we're coming to a point where it becomes a position
100%.
debate. It becomes a role and a position debate. So look, as I said, the chat's been totally divided. There's people that are saying Zuberi's talking facts. There's some people are saying this is why we love Cav. And then there's some people saying Avi's making total sense, unusually. So there's loads of different opinions and look, we're trying to embrace it all. But I think Cav, it becomes a point where he signed a new deal. Klopp obviously sees something in him. I agree with you and Avi's position, but I'm hearing Zuberi's, but I think it's coming from a position of fear that we're not going to add to the quality that needs to be added, and we're going to rely on Curtis Jones and Elliott to be at the forefront of this Liverpool 2.0. If that's the case, then I'm worried as well. And I think Cav and Avi are as well, if that's the case. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think Elliott and Jones are seen as the forefront of the rebuild of what you're saying, Zuberi. Do you get what we're saying? And I think it's PTSD from a certain section of the fan base are saying, that's it. We've given new contracts to Jones, Elliott, and this is our future. We're going to extend Milner and Henderson, and here we go again. And if that's the case, I get it.
No, that's not the case, Grizz.
That's not the case. Explain your case then again, one last time, because we don't get it.
Yeah, that's not the case. Like the point I'm trying to make, and yo, Blue Chip, I don't know your caller name, so I'm gonna go with Blue Chip. Forgive me. The thing, your point actually proves what I'm saying. We're remolding this guy, and he's shown no development in the remold. That is an issue. That is an issue. Trent showed progression in his remold to right back. Genie showed progression in his remold, and that's two different age brackets. You're saying Genie was already established 25, whatever. Trent was 18, 19, and he showed development in that remold. Curtis haven't. So the thing I'm worried about is, why are we trying to remold him there versus getting the best out of him wherever he belongs? Why don't we just say, you know what? Even if we're tying him down for his future role or whatever that is, I don't think a lot of emphasis is being put in the right guy for our system. Because what does that say? So we're going to remold into something else, get the right guy for that, then what? Then develop him back on his original game. The signing makes no sense. It leaves me confused. So it's not a PTSD. It's actually a unique situation. It's very different from what we've ever seen. This is a young guy that's been remolded for however... Klopp's been here for 7 years. Is he just now starting to remold him for Genie? I don't think so. I think that was always the move. It's just he just never developed. A lot of fans see what I'm seeing. What development have Curtis made since Klopp came in? He's not developed in his original position because I don't know what that is, and he haven't been developed in this Genie position. So it's like a lateral movement on his career.
Wouldn't you say at 21 that he's still learning the game, or do you expect him to already perfect that role in that midfield area at 21 years old? Grizz, another example, Danny Murphy. A very similar example. Danny Murphy wasn't blessed with anything. He didn't have great attributes in a singular attribute, but he scored goals. He scored goals and he was effective. Curtis Jones at 21 he's got the materials to succeed in a midfield three. He does, Zuberi. Yes, he started off as a 10, but as we know with Klopp in this Liverpool system, he doesn't play with a particular 10. He plays with like Bobby, who comes back in tight spaces and then plays as a 9 as well, a false 9 or whatever you want to call it. With Curtis Jones at 21, you need to give him time. Look, these are conversations in 2 years' time. We will either say, you know what, you were right, fair enough. This contract didn't make sense because we should have got rid of him at 21. But there was 2 performances last season that I saw that I thought, yeah, you know what, there's a player there. And okay, people will say, oh, what, only 2? Porto away, where he showed his flair, his influence, his attacking prowess, and the Southampton game away as well last season when we won 2-1, when Klopp changed it around, right? And at the end of the game, Klopp went to him and said, yeah, I called out his name. He shouted his name because he really put in a proper grit performance in. And against Porto away in the Champions League last season, he was like an attacking player. So there's different facets to his game. He just needs to combine it together with consistency.
Adam sends in a super chat. So let's be honest. Everyone rated Curtis before a certain Twitter account started vitriol hate against him. Redman TV said this too. By the way, Avi is spot on. And then there's the opposing views, where it says they tried to give Nabi a new contract. Was it extended? What does that mean?
Equal opportunity.
Equal opportunities. Now, this is another debate, isn't it, Cav? this is something that we don't want to get into in terms of he's only getting this extension because he's a local lad. To me, that doesn't make sense. The homegrown quota, which Avi I think touched upon, makes total sense. But this notion that because he's Scouse and because he's homegrown, that's just load of baloney, right? Absolute load of baloney.
Yeah, it is. I think that's just something.
We shouldn't even address it, really. I feel stupid for addressing it.
I think you're right to mention it because it's something that the fans that aren't happy about this deal and don't really like Curtis as a player, they do say it. So it's right to mention it. But when I mention it in the sense of above and beyond his abilities, as in the sense that I've spoke about what his place in the squad and what I think he offers to the squad. But it's an added benefit that he is a local lad. Not that I care where any of our players come from, but if you are a local lad, not even so much local, but like you're from England and you understand English football, because it does help you, because you don't have to learn the language, you don't have to learn the culture, you know your teammates, you know your club, you know the history, you know everyone in and around the space, you know you're local to the city, so you can be, understand what's going on and the cultural changes and things like that. And it just helps. If you're a happy footballer and you understand your personal life, it will reflect on the pitch in a positive way, as opposed to signing a 21-year-old lad from Europe that doesn't speak the language, moves to Liverpool, it's a completely different culture, and they have that time to bed in. So I'd just say it's a benefit if they're a good player, but it doesn't really matter. It's just something to mention, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Look, people are saying this is the main thing. People, be respectful in the comments section. Everyone's getting a bit agitated either way. And look, we've argued between ourselves. And you guys can argue all you want in the chat. That's what it's supposed to be. But keep it respectful. As soon as I see even abuse given to each other, I'll block you. You know me, I don't give a shit. I'll just block you and shit. I meant either or. Was it thing where they couldn't give Nabi a new contract and they settled for Curtis? Oh, I see. So, Avi, what he's suggesting is, why didn't they press or give that contract offer to Nabi? I think that's what he's meaning. But they did, right?
They did, and I still don't know why they did. Why Nabi got a contract extension?
This is a total difference.
Doesn't make sense at all.
Exactly. So does the Nabi? Well, let's move on from Curtis because I got to wrap this up. My God, I got to go in a minute. But does the Nabi deal make sense then, Avi? From what you're saying is we offered this deal to Nabi, not this particular deal, but we offered a deal to Nabi. He's turned and refused it. Shouldn't there be more fume towards Nabi than a young local lad who hasn't done anything wrong per se, but can only prove himself? Nabi's given 5 years, is it, Avi? Or
yeah, 2019.
So where do you stand with the Nabi situation then?
Look, I love the player when he's fit, but we need to draw the line. And this summer, the summer that's gone, it just goes to show Grizz that we can't have sentiment. And Zuberi might be thinking that Curtis Jones is a bit of sentiment as well.
Yeah, I think Zuberi's thinking,
and that's fine, and that opinion is totally valid. But with Nabi Keita, this player Klopp has tried to trust this player for the last 4 or 5 years. It's not worked out for him, and we're extending his contract for what? To retain his value. There is no value in the player that stays injured. There is no value in him. Just like Ox, if they really wanted to get rid of Ox and Nabi last summer, they could have. But they weren't really in any interested parties who were going to pay the fee that we were demanding. Nabi Keita signing a new contract doesn't make any sense at all. When we know he's just going to break down, and he can't be trusted. That's what it is. Klopp doesn't have any trust in him. And even when he was fit, which was surprisingly, Klopp still didn't start him in some games. In some important games, he still went with his normal jugular, Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago, or even Milner ahead of Nabi. So it's a £55 million deal that's gone down the drain, unfortunately.
Zuberi, have you got any opinions and views aligning with your view on Jones, or is it different for Nabi? There's the time to speak or forever.
Yeah, no. So I'm probably the worst guy to come to on this Nabi thing because I've never backed him. When I mean never backed him.
Oh shit!
Listen. No. Let's call a spade a spade.
Okay.
All slate Bundesliga and say it's a farmers league. And we all seen the highlights over there. And we all know there was a little bit of inconsistency, temperament issue. There was a little background issue with Nabi. It wasn't a whole lot. And we're like, if the right manager comes in, they can polish that off. Let's be honest. When we sent them back, I think that ruined it. Because when we sent him back, I think that little bit that was an issue just got highlighted, and he's never been able to tame that. Whether it's down to injuries, there's a lot of things that I'm thinking going on backstage that we're not seeing. That's been a big factor. Like, I don't think the guy's injured. I think the guy was given 3 years too long at this club. I'm gonna be honest. I'm biased because he's wearing number 8. I don't think he should have got that number. So as soon as I see him with the 8, I'm like, yeah, this ain't gonna work out. Big shoes to fill, high expectation, and he's not done himself any justice on the pitch either. I mean, he has some great moments, but in 5 years, we might only talk about 5 moments. It's not good enough for me. And it's the same thing for Jones. You're talking about last season with the 2 top games Jones did. That's basically what we've been saying about Origi. We've only had like 2 good games per season from Origi. So these are the type of player that's in the squad that's hindering the ambition of us fans. Because let me tell you, FSG and the managers, they're aligned as far as what their ambitions are. We as fans, we're not aligned with those ambitions. And we're trying to nitpick as to who's to blame for what. They're all aligned. We as fans are probably more ambitious than the owners and manager.
Well, that could change very soon. Avi's given me an opinion that he said, look, he was a massive fan. I was as well. But slowly as time has elapsed, he's been disappointed. And now he's come to a point where you're frustrated, right? Zuberi's saying, I was always doubtful, and I've been proved right about him. It was the Bundesliga tax, and he's been a total waste. Cav, I'm going to let you have the final say on the Nabi scenario and see what you're coming at. Because again, the chat split again. This is the beauty of it. The chat split. People are saying, how can you cuss Nabi like that? He's got more talent than Curtis Jones. And then some people are saying, how can you, it's all about opinions and views, right? So Cav, the Nabi scenario.
I just want it to be over. To be honest with you, I think we're all at the end of our wits with it now. Like he's come in, and look, I was really pleased when we signed him. We obviously signed him and he stayed at Leipzig for an extra season, and he didn't have a very good season actually in that year. But as a footballer and his attributes, he looked like a real modern day midfielder. Pacey, low centre of gravity, great balance, could go by a man, box to box. He looked like the real deal and dead excited. And at the fee, it suggests he was a good player as well, 55 million. But it never worked out at Liverpool. He scored some good goals that you could make a couple of minute highlight reel out of if you really tried. But in truth, his entire Liverpool career has just been filled with frustration and disappointment. I can understand why we stuck by him and he stayed for so long, because that's what we do and that's what Klopp does. He sticks by people. He believes in them, and he believes that if you trust people, you will get the return out of them. Nabi's just the prime example for somebody where that hasn't and won't work, And look, it's been injuries, and the team, the medical team, have clearly looked at the injuries and felt like if they changed a few things, managed his diet, his routine, try this, try that, his training exercises, they could work something out.
What's that diet, Avi, they tried on him?
No, he was on a plant-based diet for last season, and it worked.
There you go.
They felt like it wasn't that he was playing and he was inconsistently, he'd have 30 games and 5 might be good, then 5 might be bad, then 5 might, but he was just not available. So they felt like they could get him available. And that's fair. Sometimes as a player, you come in and you sign and they've got to figure things out and work out how his body works and change a few things. But to be honest, it went on way too long. Way too long, and we became a bit not reliant on him. But this season is clear that if we relied on people that were, I think you've got a point. We didn't become reliant on him to become a regular, but we became reliant on him to step in when we needed him, and he was never there to step in when we needed him. So therefore, we are relying on him to be a amazing, like the perfect squad player, stroke first teamer, and he was always not available. Of course, we can all mention the odd games. I'm sure we can all between us mention 3 games that he was outstanding in, but does that justify a £55 million fee? 3 games? Unless you guys can mention more. I struggled to mention the 3 games, but I also, and this is where I'm going to end it, I can remember Curtis Jones having 3 games, guys. And he's only 21, and he's only a kid, and he's learning his trade, where Nabi knew his trade. Nabi knew his role. Nabi's role
It's changed slightly, but nowhere near as drastically as Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones was a floater, a top, free bird. Do what you want under the under 21s. He was the king of the hill. Now he's been asked to play a completely disciplined role as a one that covers distances, areas, and it's going to take time. Guys, we was mentioned Ox, but I think it's unanimous. I don't think anyone, even Zuberi or Avi, will have a controversial opinion on the Ox scenario and situation. Am I right?
Get him a 1-year extension and let him save face. It's my guy, man. It's my guy. Great man. Great man. Can't really speak about his football since Roma injury, but
you're coming with this that we've given Curtis Jones an extension because he's a great guy and he's a kid and he's
sentiment, isn't it? Sentiment.
Yeah.
No, but
it's not
see, that's the beauty
what's
of
the
it.
sentiment with Curtis Jones? There's no sentiment with Curtis Jones, is there? Is there?
Yeah, he's been there since 9. That's a lot of sentiment.
Oh, okay.
Nah, with the Ox thing, man, that's just pure banter. Nah, he needs to go. Like 2 seasons ago. So, but I do love the guy. I do like Ox a lot. I am sentimental to him, but he needs to go for his own sake at this point.
Very quickly, have we messed up with the Ox and the Nabi deals? Have we messed up? We're very quick to, some of us are very quick to praise our recruitment and the way we operate. Because there's an argument from the people that are saying it's not a mess up because during the course of their contracts, they played out their contracts and it hasn't been a disaster. The economic side of things, people will say, well, that's how a perfect contract runs. You buy a player, you give them wages over a 5-year deal, and then you say goodbye. What do you think, Mr. Blue Chip?
When you think of the outlay at 90 million, could we have got 3 players at that price, who would have given us availability, durability, and performances and consistency? Maybe we could say yes. But look, I think Ox is a likable guy. So is Nabi. We all 3 of us, I think it's the general consensus. We wanted all of them to succeed and work at Liverpool, right? It hasn't. And they've won. Look, whether they've played a big part in it or not, they've won trophies along the way. Nabi, to be fair to him, in the Carabao Cup final and the FA Cup semi-final against Man City, he was sensational in his press. He was sensational last season in those 2 particular games that I remember, and scored some belters last season too. Ox, unfortunately, has never been the same since. I think Zuberi mentioned the Roma injury. I mean, the 2019 and 20 season when he won the league, he was okay. Played 43 times, scored a few goals, but yeah, we've never had Ox back to his best, so it's unfortunate. I just think it's one of those Grizz that they'll go next summer and it's fine. They've collected their trophies. No harm done.
No harm done, Kev?
A bit of harm done. Yeah, we should have let them go sooner. We should be in a scenario where they're going out on frees. You know what I mean? Like even last summer. I mean, come on, we all knew here. Loads of people in the chat would have knew here. You can't rely on these guys. I know you need men in the squad, and if you can't sign people, well, be crafty, get a youngster in or get a loan deal in or something. I know we've got a loan deal, but we won't talk about that. But just get something for them because they're not going to be of any value this season, and that's how it's playing out.
Go on. You've unmuted yourself because you want to say something. I wasn't going to even let you say something.
Yeah, no, I apologize, man. Listen, I think it's just the same conflict of interest we're facing. We want to be a destination club. That might mean some players are going to leave on the free. The amount that's leaving on the free, I think, is poor business. We should at least sell some of these players or move them on in the right moments. And that's my only fear for Jones, not because of Jones personally, but he might be one of those ones that we're going to like, should have let him go while it was still fresh. So that's my biggest fear with the Jones thing. Once again, it's not like his contract was running out. We could have did this deal at the end of the summer. Doing it now, that's why I'm like, why now? That's my only question on it. And I think it's all down to poor business sense, with these guys. Being a destination club, you're going to lose a lot of people for free. But you should try to limit that.
There you go, guys. We've ended up with the question that we started off with. We suggest we haven't got an answer that suits all. But is there ever an answer that fits all? Is there ever an answer that satisfies everyone? No. We've had 4 people. 3 of us probably agreed. Mostly, one didn't. Plenty agreed with him, and this is what it's about. This is why I wanted to set up a show where we discuss this. Divided so much opinion on social media, the outrage, the outpouring of emotion over Curtis Jones in relation to sort of the on the back of the Ox and the Nabi scenario as well. But listen, people, it's World Cup now, isn't it? Let's just simmer down. Forget about all these deals and not deals. Let's focus on the World Cup. Very quickly, who's your team? Zuberi, who's your team for the World Cup?
I'm going with the Croissants in France.
Oh, you're mad. You're mad. Mr. Blue Chip, it's got to be a wild team.
My team's always Spain, but I think it's inevitable that Argentina.
No, you got to stick with Spain. Spain. I like that. Wild
but watch out for watch out for obviously the USA. Semi-finals, I'm telling you.
Tried and tested, or
yeah, look, I'm going to be watching Uruguay, right? Mainly because of Darwin Núñez and because of Valverde, and I think they're a real dark horse. But I will be the guy that's in a beer garden with all my mates supporting England, so I'm not afraid to be shameful about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going for Uruguay. I'm not going to lie. I think Uruguay could be a bit of a wild horse. It's not that wild though. People are talking about sort of they're over the hill with Godin and sort of Suarez up top and Cavani. But amongst them, they've got a lot of hungry, passionate young players, including our very, very own, Núñez, who's backed up by Bentancur. What's the other guy?
Molina, Valverde.
Wow, Valverde could really come out in the world spotlight in this tournament, couldn't he? But let's see how it goes. Even Oliveira, the Napoli left back, he was so impressive against us. So yeah, man, World Cup chat. This is
Grizz.
Go on.
Before we go, very last minute. Does Bobby sign? It's a contract show.
But I think Bobby signs. I think Bobby extends.
1 year with an option to go again.
Well, we didn't even discuss Bobby. That could be controversial, guys. But we'll save that. Is that controversial, Avi, in your eyes, or
no? You've got him a contract. He deserves
one more year of vibes. I'm down.
Oh shit! Zuberi's nodding. Is that controversial again?
Nope, not for me, man. That? Oh yeah, man. This is his best season for me. Think about it.
No sentiment there, no. No sentiment. I'm gonna leave
it.
He
deserves it. He deserves. Grizz.
A lot of sentiment.
No, there is sentiment. Of course, there is. But
there's sentiment there, guys.
He's loyal, man. He's loyal. Like,
can we not replace him with a younger?
No, Grizz. I can't entertain this. Nope. I'm not even having it.
See what I'm saying? See how it switches?
No, I can't entertain this, Grizz. No,
that's what I'm saying. People, this has been a special Khanage for the contract chat. Love you and leave you. We out of here. Take care.